Hello, everyone. So we are live yet again, and I'll give it a moment for notifications to kind of go out and keep my eye out for my guest host of the week. And as always, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. So I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. If you were in the United States, you probably had a long weekend. At least a lot of us did. And so I hope you took advantage of it, whatever that may mean. For me, I was out at a convention, Dragon Con in Atlanta, where I was sitting on various panels, including representing Book Talk on one of them. So that was a lot of fun, and being able to meet some fellow people that I've gotten to know through this platform. But yeah, so it's been a very busy week. I am definitely, it's not really jet lagged, but I'm definitely sleep deprived, because I am thoroughly exhausted from that event. But yeah, so let me know, how was your long weekend, if it was a long one, or how was your weekend? And as I keep my eye out for my guest host, we will get things rocking and rolling in just a few minutes. But yeah, and also, I always like to ask right up front is, what are you reading? Anything good lately? I'm working through the 5th book of Wheel of Time now, so things are picking up in that series. I think I'm trying to remember how many books are in that series, but I'm finally getting into where the part where it's starting to pick up its pace. The first book was very, very slow. But I don't know if anybody out there reads Wheel of Time, but that's my jam right now. At least for the next few weeks. I'm a slow reader. It'll take me a moment to get through the book before I move on to something else. But it was a lot of fun going to Dragon Con. I actually got some signed copies. I brought my copy of Travis Baldry's Legends and Lattes and got to meet him and get a little his signature on my copy of his book. And then got to meet some other book talkers and get some signed copies from their stuff as well, like Son of a Sailor by Marshall Moore. So, been having a eventful few days. But yeah, keeping my eye out for my co-host, and then we'll get right into it. I see him, so I'm going to connect. Hello!
You.
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
I love your backdrop.
Thank you. That's my backdrop. I do a lot of in-person events. I've been trying to find invert.
I've never figured that out, so I gave up and printed out an inverted poster, so it
I
looks correct on the screen. I like that. That's my trick and tip, is like, it's the
that's what
way to
I've
go if you do
been.
a lot.
I'm gonna give up soon and do that. But yeah, I do in-person events. I do probably about two. I do like two a month. I do like one every other week.
Fantastic.
And this is my backdrop. I also have, a tent, tables, the whole setup.
Great. Well, good. Then I'm going to pick your brain about more in-person stuff, because that's something I feel like I should get into. I kind of was starting to get into it right before COVID, and then never got back into it post that. And so just came back from Dragon Con, a big 5-day convention. So
How was it?
getting to see, oh, it was a lot of fun. I was on several panels, including Book Talk. So I got to represent this community at that event, and it's just kind of really neat meeting people that you see face to face on screen here, and then actually meet them in person.
Yeah, they're
And
like humans. Isn't it weird?
yeah, well, most of them, I don't know. I was in costume the whole time, so I may have been a little different, but to
Nice,
see
nice.
them. But yeah, so welcome to my author's chat. And what I like to always start out with is let you introduce yourself and what you write.
Awesome. So I have too many names that I should. I am Z or Zachary or Zach Jeffries. I write all kinds of different genres under different books or under different names. So my middle grade sci-fi, I am Z Jeffries.
Love
And
it.
then for my YA fantasy, I am Zachary Jeffries.
Yes.
And, and then I'm about to launch some nonfic writing craft as Zach
Hmm.
Jeffries.
I like that. And okay, see, that's a great point. Like for me, I always do everything the wrong way. I admit this from the start. This is why it's just, I feel like I'm always paces behind my peers, is just because I'm doing everything the wrong way, including keeping my same name new adult and adult literature. They're all epic fantasy, but it's a little bit of a nightmare trying to market. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know for you, because you use so many pen names. Do you see a lot of benefit from that, or is that kind of complicated again, trying to be like, who am I today?
I kind of, I try to be me, just like, this is just me, my authentic self. As far as like my branding goes, I go Jeffries Books is like
Mhm.
my umbrella brand, and I have all of the rest of the pen names under there. That really is specifically for if a kid loves my middle grade books and then gets like, a gift card to their mom and pop bookstore, that they're gonna get the right things for them. I don't write anything spicy or anything like that, but I do have some explicit language
Yeah.
in my YA and my other stuff. Um, so it really is just about protecting the middle grade group
Mhm.
more than that. And then once I started branching off for nonfiction, it kind of just made sense. I am Zach to my friends, even my
Yeah.
friends on me, they call me Zach. And so uh, this book is really about me, and it is really me and this little writing community on here who's helped me hone all of these prompts and stuff. So, no, I don't think it's a lot of headaches. It was a little confusing before I
Yeah.
leaned into Jeffrey's books.
Yeah. Okay, well that makes sense. And again, like for me, I'm like kind of like, if I ever branched away from epic fantasy drastically, like what if I wanted to dabble in sci-fi or something again that's different, then I would probably at that point get a pen name. At this point, I'm kind of riding the whole, if it's epic fantasy, it's going to be the same thing forever.
Yep.
And you just be aware of my notes of what age group it is. That's my that's my only thing. But we actually have some questions popping up already. Let me try to get to a couple of them. The first one popped up, said, "Do you have any tips for someone who has a beta manuscript and is stuck moving it forward?"
Um, I think leaving it and coming back to it is always helpful. Letting it go, try to write something else, even if it's something short. Refill the creative well by reading another book, whether or not some people can't read in the same genre or subgenre of what they're writing, but taking the break and mentally looking at something else before coming back to it. Uh, Give yourself a lot of grace. I don't think hard deadlines are a friend to new writers. I think you should, yeah, don't don't pile on with like monetary deadlines. Like, don't advertise a pre-order or anything like that when you're first starting off. And yeah, just be nice to yourself. Just give yourself a lot of room to stumble. There are going to be obstacles. There are going to be things you didn't realize that were going to pop up that'll pop up. Be your own cheerleader. Don't be tough on yourself.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I mean, I agree with all that. And as for like, I don't know if you were trying to no, handles nobody. If nobody, sorry, I love that just because of the Odyssey. Anywho, if you are trying to figure out like your next stages, I would always encourage beta readers, ask for help with them. And of course, then after you're dealing with some beta reader rounds, that's when you can start looking for your editor or editors, depending on the type of editing you want to pursue next, because there are different editors for different
Mm-hmm.
purposes. But
Yep.
yeah. Okay, question number 2 said, "How do authors view multi-genre writers?"
How do who view them?
It said, "How do authors view multi-genre writers?" I'm a little confused if you mean authors or readers, but that, like, for me, I'm all about seeing someone not pigeonhole themselves, if that's what you mean. Like, I'm totally fine about self-expression and people writing in multiple different kind of genres and subgenres. Um, Everybody has a different approach for marketing, clearly. Some may be a little more better than others, but I'm all about, if you want to branch out, branch out. Just understand that's going to be a whole new set of marketing experience and approach and building, and probably, at least in part, a new readership. You'll definitely have some people that follow.
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like a lot of authors read widely, like read across genres, and we kind of expect our readership to as well, and they don't always. There are a lot of readers out there, maybe even a majority of readers that kind of find their niche and like that's what they go for, that they're just going to read this one specific subgenre and just go for it. Yeah, I think you should write what is fulfilling to you. I don't think if you force yourself to write a book to chase a market, I think that's an easy way of burning out if it's not something that you're inspired to write. I'm all for it, but exactly like you said, like oftentimes if you're switching genres, you're kind of starting over again on building that readership. And a lot of authors will tell you like, it's a rare instance where the first book is what takes off for you. It's often project number 5, project number 6, something further along than that, that will really catch fire, catch a readership, and really take off from there. Like Rebecca Thorne, who was just an absolute hero of mine, and she had a fantastic interview with you. I think she said it was her 15th book was the one that really took off. Hey.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people, because everybody hears about the success, they aren't necessarily aware of what happened prior. And a lot of authors, even people like Stephen King, I don't remember how many times he, queried and everything and got rejected. And I know he had some kind of, the numbers were like astronomical, but eventually he had gold. And part of that is also you're developing your writing voice and you're improving as a writer. So first books aren't necessarily going to be that golden ticket to success.
Absolutely, 100%. And the best thing about being an indie is as you grow as a writer, you have an opportunity to go back and clean those first ones up, align them more to your style or your authorial voice.
Yeah, and before I get to some more of these questions, because we have them peppering relatively quickly, which is fantastic. I always like testing new times, and I haven't done a morning one of these lives lately, so this is really interesting to me.
Oh, nice. Welcome, guys.
But yeah, so for you, okay, so what you now spanning between 3 different essentially kind of age bracket genres and everything, do you have a favorite? Can I ask that? Or is there aspects of each different project that you enjoy?
I mean, there are aspects of each. My pen names are divided up by subgenre as well as readership. So they just offer different things to me. Like when I'm doing sci-fi, that's all kinds of research,
I would imagine.
Google holes, just like go off and read entirely too much about like camouflage technology and like space flight and just all of these funky things, faster than light theory. So they offer different things. I really am happy in the fantasy genre. I just launched that pen name last year, a little later than now, this time last year. And I really, really enjoy that. It matches up to my sensibilities, my sense of humor. I'm kind of a kitchen sink kind of writer where like I'm going to test drive this magic system and throw everything I can at it to see how it fits and see how it works. And that really did super well for me in fantasy. I already did that, and I have my sci-fi series, the Hide and Seek Chronicles. I got 4 books of these, and this is literally every sci-fi trope I fit into these bad boys. So like, I'm very happy with those, and I don't have a super itch of something that I haven't explored yet in sci-fi to try, but there's so much to do in fantasy. My favorite My favorite character is Juniper Schmidt. She's
Ooh,
my amateur detective in a world with hidden magic. And then I am currently writing these urban fantasy with romance.
mhm.
This is book one, Angel of Fate. Angel of God's End comes out this coming Valentine's Day,
Fun.
and that's been a lot of fun. That's as many different mythologies and
Oh, I love that.
folklores as I can.
I'm all
So
about mythos.
it's tough to say. I have favorite characters, and I would say that's my favorite world right now.
Ooh, fun. Well, I mean, okay, here's the thing. Whatever you're currently writing, you're hoping to enjoy because if you're not enjoying it, why are you writing it? And so when people ask me, what's your favorite book? I'm like, well, it's the one I'm writing right now because I'm writing it.
Exactly.
That's
Also, I
easy.
mean, we also like to think that we're getting better with every book.
That's true. That's why I'm hoping. I'm always hoping. And that's the thing. It's like, I love my first series. I, can speak so many high praises about the characters and the world and everything, but it was my first series. And the writing, hopefully, at least in my point of view, has gotten much better for the other two that I'm working on right now. And so it's kind of like when I go back and you look at your first book, you're again goes back to it's not cringy, but it's kind of like, wow, if I wrote that now, what would I have updated or changed or, how would it sound? So
Yep.
just doesn't mean it's a bad story. It's just your first story.
No, growth is good. Growth is great.
That's what we all want to do. And again, if you see any questions on your end, feel free to shout them out. Since I do repurpose this on YouTube and probably next week for this one, but then people can't see the little questions. And someone asked, when will the Winds of Winter ever come out? And the answer is never. No. Who knows? The answer is who knows. We all want it to happen. Okay, so question coming up. Do you have any tips for finding beta readers? Do you use beta readers? Let me ask that first.
I do. I cast a pretty wide net because
Mhm,
I don't always listen to my beta readers. I pay more attention to where in the story they
mhm.
have notes, and I definitely listen less to what their suggestions for fixes are.
Okay.
So if there's a problem in there, I believe them, especially when multiple beta readers say that.
Mhm,
I will absolutely believe it. But I reach out. I do a lot of beta reading for other people. So I will reach out for those people. Also, let me just say, if you are beta reading for other people, it improves your own work
mhm.
greatly. There are a lot of times where I find the notes that I give other people are really big notes for myself. And I can apply those to myself. So I beta read for a lot of other people, and then I will then in turn ask for beta reads. I am very active in some Facebook groups. You got to be very careful in Facebook groups. There's a lot of negativity and trolls and all that kind of stuff. But when you find a nice community, be as active as you can and as helpful as you can. So I get beta readers from there. And then just, I love social media. I do love talking about my books and everything like that, but I'm not using social media exclusively to sell books. I'm using it to cultivate community
Yeah.
and learn about my readership and what my readers want and to connect and talk with people. And I really feel like if you have these genuine connections with readers and writers, that it's not awkward for you to be like, hey, I got a beta read. Would you be interested in checking this out?
Yeah, and mean, yeah, again, all agreement. I have, yeah, there are definitely communities and groups on platforms like Facebook that are to try to connect beta readers or alpha readers or ARC readers, depending on what stage you need, to people. Obviously, it's always good, especially early on, to come up with some base ideas of what you want out of your beta readers so you can tell them what you're expecting, give them a time frame, kind of vet them a little bit because everybody loves to read a free book, but if they're not going to actually give you a timely response, quality answers, you may have to unfortunately say goodbye to them before your next project. But
Hmm.
and when you're starting, obviously, come out with some ideas. What do you want out of them? Do you want them to help you with the storyline, your character development, or are you trying to do the grammar side of things? And so, understand what you want out of them, and don't, feel free to ask, because there's definitely going to be people pretty much on any platform who will be like, I love to read, but it's the vetting them just to make sure they're going to do what they're going to do it for quality, have your copyright. I'm all for, protecting yourself, because you don't want to have anybody try to take your ideas.
Yeah, and there are ways like Book Funnel. You can get a what is it called? Watermark. You can get your stuff watermarked so it cannot be transferred
Yeah.
somewhere else. Do you use donations or forms for your beta readers, or do you
I've been
just
using the same
vet them
for a
like one
little
on
while,
one?
so I haven't opened it up. But again, for me, it's like you pick out how many you want. You don't need a huge group. You don't need a huge group because there's too many ideas that are going to go, and there are going to be too many people having opposite opinions. So pick a handful and start from there. But yeah, I looking back, and I feel like I should do a form going forward if I open it up to new beta readers. I'm always opening up to new ARC readers, but for beta readers, I definitely probably would do a little form and everything just to, again, vet them per se. There's
Yep.
a man on here, Jason Duro, and he talks about how he does that for especially even ARC readers. He does that just, again, it's trying to make sure people are going to do what they say they're going to do, or why else
Yep,
distribute.
absolutely. And be good to your beta readers,
Yeah.
because if someone is a good beta reader, you want to hold on to them for the next book and the book after that and the book after that. Also, let me just say, hey, Angel of God's End is going through betas right now. And if you are interested in the beta reading process, go ahead and reach out to me, follow me, and shoot me a DM, and we'll see if it's a good fit.
There you go. And that's always make sure I always forget to like do promos of like when I have something available. For instance, my arcs just got sent out for my latest one. See, now you're, which is the 10th volume of my Viking fantasy. So they got sent out today, which means there will be a new book in a few weeks, because they're novellas, they're quick, and I'm trying to do. This is my craziness for the rest of the year. I'm trying to release one a month for the next 3 months, because I'm off track. I had a little hiccup with one of my old editors, and so that kind of pushed everything off. And now I'm kind of doing this scramble, because the books are written. They're in various stages of editing and formatting, and they just need to now be, let's go.
Yeah, once you catch a rhythm, I keep telling people that first book is precious and wonderful, and it is awesome. It is difficult to edit or to revise my book. It is easier to revise one of my books
Mm-hmm.
because it's a little less personal, it's a little less precious, and then once you get going, like, you have a rhythm. Like, I am drafting at one point in time. I have one thing that is headed out to betas. I have one thing that is in between betas and arcs right now.
Yes, and that's the thing, is I do like the cycling. There are definitely authors who write the book, edit it, and put it out, and then they write the next book. I'm definitely a person who cycles. Now it's a little confusing, because in the morning I'm writing like a new material usually, and then the afternoon I'm editing something else or formatting a totally different one, and it's like, what? Where are we in the story? Which series is this? Whose head am I supposed to be in? But yeah, I do like that kind of process, because it
Agreed. And I think it kind of lends itself to the modern reader who doesn't have the attention span of back when people were picking up, Tolkien or things like that. So you can really edit and focus on a scene or a chapter, give it a beginning and middle and end, and really just like bam, pop the reader. And that's what they're looking for each time they sit down. The attention span is a little shorter. That's not an awful thing. I think your writing style can also fit or match that.
hmm absolutely. Now let me try to catch up with all these messages, because I have 31 at this point.
Oh wow.
We're getting a lot of chatter, and I feel really bad. I was like, I'm really wanted to talk with you, but I want to make sure I also okay, some of the comments I'll read out quickly. I know writers who only write westerns and some romance, but they won't try anything new. And that is a thing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you have your niche and you know it works and you're enjoying it, that's fine. But my whole personality, I think we reiterated earlier, is don't necessarily feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Now, okay, this one's a question. It says, how do you rein in ideas to stay on track with the story you are developing? I am kind of in a rabbit hole right now, so.
Um, I really try to anchor on characters, because if I have just a really great idea, that will often peter out. I have coming up on, I'll have 10 books, Valentine's Day, I'll have 10 books out. I have many more than that unfinished books, because they were 100% idea and I didn't take the time to drop into and connect with a character. Ideas are great. Ideas are, there are a lot of them. Once you get good at creating ideas, the making of an idea or a plot or even a setting or a magic system isn't as hard as really grounding a realistic character that's easy to connect to. And if you connect to that character, then a reader can connect to that character. If you can't, then a reader can't. And I have always found that if I am not super connected to a character, I'll get 20, 30,000 words in and just kind of meander off, even if I know what the plot is, even if I have an idea for the structure of the adventure or the journey.
And for me, it's like, if I have some really interesting idea, I make a note of it. Sure, make a note of it, because I don't want to forget about it. And once I'm like, okay, it's there, it's in my file, I can always go back to where I was. Then I can return to my current story that I'm working on and not feel like, what if I forget this great idea, which may or may not be a great idea until I go back to it. But at least then it's not stressing me out and my mind's not continuously like, but what about what about this other thing? So there are, a number of authors who do keep kind of files or logs of potential next stories that, if the time is right, we'll get to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, once you get good at coming up with ideas, that part is easy. And a really fun thing that you can do if you have plot bunnies, if you have a bunch of ideas in the beginning of a brainstorming, is see what happens when you combine them. See like what different kind of thing you get when you just squish these two things that don't necessarily seem like they go together and just make them go together, and then see where that leads.
Yeah. Going back to the beta idea, what is your opinion about using family and friends as betas versus someone entirely different? Hello.
I use family and friends for alpha readers. Generally speaking, my alpha readers, all I want are cheerleaders. I'm looking for what's working and what people like, so I can lean into that with revisions. With beta readers, I'm working on what's not working, what needs to be trimmed up, what needs to be cut, what can be combined, what can be just removed. So at first, when I was first starting, it was anyone I could get to read. And honestly, looking back at some of those manuscripts, thank you guys for doing the reading there, because the writing wasn't necessarily there yet. But I love friends and family, and I do have some supportive friends and family that want to chip in where they can. And for me, it's alpha reading. I only do alpha readers after I have the first manuscript done. When it's still super rough, I won't do a complete revision. I'll go back through and I'll make sure everyone's name stays the same, because I will change names, a lot of proper names, all the way through. And then I'll do a very quick grammar check, pro writing aid grammar check. But then I'll send that off to alpha readers. Mainly my sister. My sister is my best alpha reader.
And I think you were making some good points in the sense that when it comes to friends and family, they want to be your cheerleader. They want to support you. And because of that, they're going to have a little bit of a skewed perspective. And so there may not be as critically focused as you want them to be. So it's harder for some of them to say this is not great because they
Yeah.
want to be supportive of you. So again, being like an alpha reader, like you said, for that kind of initial support, or maybe you hold them all the way off into an arc reader if they promise to give you the review. No, you can't force in a review, but maybe do that when it's all said and done, and then they can be, 5-star review because, they love you, they love the work that you're doing. But it is hard when it's that critical. I'm trying to truly edit a story stage and have someone who wants to be supportive, but can they also be like, this gotta go. This whole
Yeah.
section is bad.
Yeah. They'll always give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, yes. So, okay, well, you were talking in the beginning about how you do some live event every other week. One, that sounds exhausting, but maybe it's just, again, I came back from, so thinking about doing this, something akin to that, maybe not to that extent, every other week sounds tiring, but also probably profitable. So tell me a little bit about how you like doing those every other week functions. What are they and what are your
Yeah.
interactions?
So my absolute favorites are the ones that are associated with libraries. Those are
Mhm.
always my favorite. I love doing ones at libraries because people who go to libraries are readers and they're looking for books and they're looking for new books. There are a lot of my stuff fits in a lot of different areas. Like a lot of libraries try to do like little mini comic cons, like 1 day comic cons, and that's my bread and butter. I bring the backdrop. I have all my geeky sci-fi stuff. I have posters. I have pins. Those do really well for me. I will do some like makers or craft ones if they are themed, especially
Okay.
ones that are like sci-fi or fantasy themed, like magical themed, or if they're even some of them are even trying to cash in on the Comic Con kind of craze. I do any book fest that I can, and then I do like. Let's see what else. What else do I do? Yeah, that mainly covers what
Mm-hmm.
most of mine are. And then yeah, so I have it down to an art now. I drive a little sedan and I can fit everything into the trunk. Oh, arts festivals, local arts
Oh, okay,
festivals
yeah,
and
yeah.
arts walks. That's a really good one too. Um, Especially for those because those are artistic people. They do a lot of reading, but there's not necessarily a lot of authors at those events, so I can be the only game in town.
That's true.
Uh,
That is very true.
I always have something at my event for people to do. So my
Hmm,
table isn't just buying books.
I like
For any event with a lot of kids, I do a voting aspect, and I have a series on my TikToks that I'm doing based on it. But like for my Pro Wrestling Saves Earth series,
that. Hmm.
I had kids vote on an aspect of the book. So for this one, this specifically is in my area, the South Chicago suburbs. And so I was doing all these events in the South Chicago suburbs, and I would have kids vote on their favorite ice cream place. The one that
Hmm.
won is in the book. I changed the lettering or the spelling because I didn't get permission. So, but they know what it is.
Yes.
Um, and for my next book, for the sequel to that one, I'm having kids vote on their favorite superpower, and whatever
Hmm.
wins is going to be a character's favorite superpower. So when I see kids dressed up like Spider-Man, I'm like, "Hey, Spider-Man, do you want to help me out with my next book?" And I'll have them come over and they'll write it out. And
Yes.
some of the answers are hilarious. There's a kid that can poop cats. That was one that showed up. That's one of my favorites. The ability to
Love it.
scout time until my enemies stop breathing, like Wow,
Okay,
dude.
someone's ready to be a dark fantasy author. I see you.
Yep, yep. So those are really fun. For the adult ones, for promoing Angel of Fate, which is about a Grim Reaper in training, is the male love interest. I had tarot cards made, like little business tarot cards, and I would have them out, and I would get people to come over and I'm like, look, read your bookish fortune, or maybe look into the future of your favorite character. But all of them were death cards because of the Grim Reaper.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I keep it fun. I make sure that it's not just sales.
Hmm.
My goals at those are to talk to readers,
Hmm.
like period, end of sentence. Sales are nice. Um, I'm looking at trying to get some more speaking gigs. I do a couple of speaking gigs at libraries because I work with libraries so much. I'm trying to get some speaking gigs at schools. Those are nice, and that's icing on the cake. I want to talk to readers. I want to get an idea of what readers want, what readers expect. I ask almost every single person, "What are you reading now? What do you like to read?" And I ask what they like about it. What's the last great book that you read? What did you like about it? And that gives me an idea of what sticks with readers. And it's almost always like characters. And so that really guided me in how I write. And it guided me, it changed my releases, and it gave me some motivation to finish certain books that I was originally thinking were going to be farther off. I could talk about this forever. I absolutely
No, I
love
love that.
these.
And
I am known, especially in my town and a couple of towns over, I am the local author. Like a lot
I
of people
love
know
that.
me as
That's
the local author.
fantastic.
Yeah, there's some kids that, uh, as it's fun because, they grow up every single time I see them. It's generally a year later and they're like, what's new? What's the next book? There are a lot of auto buy kids. And it's really funny because, especially at the age of my sci-fi stuff, uh, like being an author, I don't think is very cool to them. Like they don't really want to talk to me. They're not interested in that. They just like come up, what's the next book? Grab it,
Yep.
they'll buy it. And they'll go off in a corner and they'll read it. And I don't ever get to hear like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. I love this. They're just like, next book, let's go.
Well, I guess that's their thumbs up for you, is that they keep
Oh
coming
yeah,
back.
that's the biggest compliment.
That's their version of thumbs up. But yeah, I think that's very important that a great approach is not to necessarily sell your books, is to sell you as a person. You're trying to build this connection because when people are invested in you, they're going to be more willing to invest in your work or what you're about. And that could be in any kind of creative field. So, yeah, you're trying to, build that connection with you and who you are and what you're about. And then the selling of the books is that added bonus
Yeah.
advantage.
So my best story is I was in this like gym for a local Comic Con, and the middle of all the vendors were around the outside, and in the middle of the floor were tables for gaming,
Mm-hmm.
tabletop games, and there was a guy who I was like, I think this is a guy that would like my books. I
Mm-hmm.
completely profiled him, nerdy shirt, loved playing these games, the comics that he was looking at, and I'm like, but I couldn't get eye contact with him. When he was walking by, I tried to say hey, and he just like, hey, and just kept going and stuff like that. So we go through the whole day, and he's gaming with his group of friends the whole time. And at the end, I'm kind of just chatting with the other vendors, talking about what we're doing next. And everyone that he was gaming with got up and formed a line at my table. And I go over there and I was like, hey, and he's like, yeah, so I saw you like at the beginning of the summer or whatever, and I bought one of your books. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get all the other books.
Nice.
And every other guy behind him got one of the same book, and they're going to group read it.
Oh,
And
fun.
while they were in line, they took pictures of a couple of other covers, sent it to friends to say, hey, do you want me to
See,
pick up this book for
that's
you?
it.
And they got more books.
That is a good one. That is fantastic. And again, that goes to show that sometimes it's just you just need to get, hook one person, and that could be the person that becomes your unofficial promoter. And they're,
Right.
they love your work so much, they'll be talking about it to their friends or anybody they want. And that's the dream. That is what you want. And I will actually, talking about trying to do the connectivity, especially like adding things in your book. So recently, as in coming out of the conference, one of the things I decided to start up is something similar. And since I don't do a lot of face to face, I'm opening it up for my VIP readers through my Facebook initially. And if it works well, I may open it up some of my other platforms. But they're going to help design and create a monster for my upcoming dark fantasy that's a D&D literature style. So, they're going to come up with what does it look like, what are some attributes, what's an environment, and then at some point, at least in the first book, I'll have to feature it in some way, shape, or form, depending on what it is in the end. So it is kind of fun to have your group of people come and get together, get excited about something, and help you along the way too.
Yeah, it's community building. At
Yeah.
some point in time, it's going to be their book too. It's going to be our book, and they're going to have ownership, and they're going to put the word of mouth out there that's better than any advertising dollar that we can spend.
Oh, yes. And I see a question saying, would you recommend using Wattpad to get your work out if you are new at writing? Now, I have not used Wattpad, so I can't say yay or nay. Have you have any experience with Wattpad?
I have experience as a reader on Wattpad. I would say if you are looking at the romance genre, absolutely. Outside of that, if you want to build a readership doing fanfic and then try to pivot that readership in a similar subgenre, I think you have the ability to do that. I don't know if you can't monetize fanfic unless you are, scrubbing the serial numbers off and changing names and kind of changing the world a bit. But yeah, Wattpad's a great platform to build up the readership. So is AO3. So is Smashwords. What is that one? Is it Rebel Road or Revolution Road?
These platforms from other authors, but I have not used. I'm not old school, but maybe a little more.
No, I understand.
That's not even a tradition. I mean, that's the fun thing about indie authors and the way you can write. There's so many ways to do it, and so just because I'm doing it one way, someone else is doing something drastically different, and both can be just equally as successful.
Absolutely. And you were talking about earlier how you're still getting your authorial voice in that with that first book. I think a platform like that is a social media storytelling platform, that's a great place to develop your authorial voice, to
Mm-hmm.
grow your community, to build your mafia before you really lean into monetization and releases and making a brand. If that stuff is too much for you to think about, then yeah, then find that platform where you can meet like-minded readers and writers and help each other and share and learn in a good positive environment.
Yeah. Now, and talking about connecting with readers and the people you're with. So before, because we hit that quarter left mark, I always want to make sure I start asking at this point in time, where can people find and follow you if they're interested in reading your books? Like, where are your books sold, and what platforms are you on? Do you have a newsletter? Tell us the whole shebang. Also,
Yeah,
website.
absolutely.
All the things.
I happen to have like the greatest newsletter ever. My group, my subscribers are awesome. They're in the middle of naming themselves. They're
I love that.
either Z heads, Zeta readers, or Z listers. I think
I love it.
those are the final ones to choose from. Everywhere I'm Jeffries Books. So if you go to jeffriesbooks.com, the first thing that shows up is going to be an ability to sign up for the newsletter. You sign up for the newsletter, you're going to get an ebook of Chase the Boy Who Hid to start off, and you're going to get, I believe, the opening chapters of Angel of Fate. If I am on a social media, I am Jeffries Books. I'm on the gram. I am mostly here. I am also on Facebook. Yeah, so those are the places to find me. My paperbacks can be found anywhere you like to buy paperbacks. I super recommend people, you don't have to spend your hard-earned money. Go to your library, request one of these books. It's actually a pretty quick turnaround for them to get it. Every library is a little different in how you request books, but it's a great thing to find out about. So go to your library, request these books. Go to your mom and pop independently owned bookstore. They can get it. And again, the turnaround is pretty quick.
And that's always one of those great things, because there are definitely readers out there and people who are passionate about specific authors or just reading in general who want to support, but reading as a hobby can be expensive, and it doesn't matter if you're an ebook person or, physical copy person. I do physical copies, or audio, whatever your choice, it gets expensive, but there are ways you can support the authors you love for free, requesting books at libraries being one of them. And that's definitely, one that people don't think about. And of course, leaving reviews, talking about the book to your friends, all that stuff that's like easy and free. And can help out the authors that you enjoy.
Those are big ones. And a lot of things, and people don't think about it. You can leave reviews on Facebook pages. And I just got like the most darling one about a mom who read a book with her 10-year-old son. And it's the first time they buddy read together. And like it opened up all these dialogues, and they got to talk about a book together, and they hadn't felt that since she used to read to him. And it was just an amazing way to connect. I do have books on KU for now. I don't know how long that's going to happen. I'm actually thinking about doing a going away party for my books in KU. So if you are in KU, go ahead and find, yeah, we are taking questions if you guys have questions. Go ahead and find Zach Jeffries, Z Jeffries, Zachary Jeffries, and just download all of them. Once I leave KU, you will still have access to those if you have downloaded them beforehand.
That's true. And that's the thing is, I recently began the process of pulling out of KU, which means depending on because you have to have that 30-day cycle, various ones are still on there for a little bit of time, but not all of them at this point. They're still available. As you said, if you've already downloaded them, they're yours as long as you're in KU, and they are still available as a Kindle book, but you have to purchase it at that point. And the idea was, there's reasons. I'm not going to go into whole depth of my reasoning of why I did that, but the nice ability now is that if I want to figure out how to sell directly from my website in the future, whenever I figure out how to do this website bookshop function, I can do that, or put them wide, because they're not wide, they're not necessarily as an ebook available through Barnes & Noble and all that yet. But it gives me options to try to play with in the future. But yes, definitely, if you're in KU, get it now.
Yeah, download them all. Go through absolutely every single one of them.
Yeah, and I do have a question popped up. How do you find editor or editors? So how did you find yours? Do you have one? Do you have more? What kind?
I have one, and I will never let them go. They are an amazing resource. They started out as a sensitivity reader for a non-binary character. And since then, they do like corporate or industrial editing. And I met up with them, and we became friends through NaNoWriMo, just National Novel Writing Month. Just as they were transitioning into doing fiction editing. And they were always a fanfic writer themselves. So it was a really natural and smooth transition, and I've never had any problems. I've been with them through 8 books now since 2020. And I was one of their first clients. I'll let you know, it's Charlie Knight Writes. C Knight, might be C Knight Writes. But yeah, if you Google Charlie Knight editor, I believe that's the one that's going to come up. They do book pretty much a year in advance now, which is fine because I need to do a better job of organizing my arcs and doing
Yeah.
launches ahead of time. I also, just like Madeline down there, I also met Charlie on Twitter back when it was cool. When we kind of had like this group that did Camp NaNoWriMo together. And it was a lot of fun, and we did a group hashtag for a long time, and I got to know them that way. And it's just another way that social media, you can try to just sell books and turn this into, your own channel of commercials, or you can really like build a community of people that support one another. And I support Charlie, and Charlie supports me.
I love that. And for me, the way I found my editors, it just ended up being kind of networking face to face. So that may not necessarily help because I know one of them, for sure, is heading into retirement. But going forward, I'll have to start that whole process again. And again, questions you need to ask again is, are you trying to do line editing, developmental editing? What you need out of what kind of editor, and then ask authors on platforms like this. There are other platforms like Readsy that have authors, editors. Always make sure if you have one that you're interested in, send them like a page just for them to demo so you can get an idea of how they're editing. And most respectable editors will go through, a page or two and just show you an example of what they would do with that kind of manuscript. And you figure out which one works for you and go from there. But yeah, plan ahead because they can take a little bit of time to get into whatever cycle they are, and also make sure you know what you can afford, because depending on the editor and depending on how they charge, affordability changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a really good point to make sure that you understand all the different types of editors that are there. Like not everybody uses developmental editors, but if you are planning on using developmental editor, that's not going to be the last editor that you hire. If you're going to move forward, you're going to want to do a line editor. You're going to want to have a proofreader. And so it's important that you know the differences between each of those. And someone says down here, the EFA website also has vetted editors as well.
Sorry, I'm getting better about having like sticky notes if I don't know anything. Personally, I always learn stuff, so I'm always like, memo to self, this is a cool idea. Or something I didn't know.
That was said by Madeline Knecht, Knecht. They're on here, and they did a developmental pass for me on Angel of Fate, and they were fantastic to work with. So if you're looking for someone, they also have really good content on here. Madeline Knecht, Knecht.
Perfect. Thank you. I love that. Yeah, because that's the only thing is I have found out it's really weird that I guess depending on who's jumping on which person's lives or if they're liked the other people, sometimes I see other people's comments. Sometimes I only see who's posting directly on my feed. And so that's why always feel free to chime in anything you see on your side. But yeah, so I guess at this point, I do want to ask, is there any topic that we haven't covered? Any question that you wanted to ask that you have not asked so far?
I have two things that I would like to talk about if I can.
Yes.
One is Breakthrough to the End. This is my book of writing prompts for writers who don't like writing prompts. I've never been able to do writing prompts. They give me guilt because I feel like they're words that aren't going toward my story. I get worried that what if I fall in love with this other idea and I lose writing momentum? And because they didn't work for me, I got like imposter syndrome, like maybe my brain isn't made to be a writer. And it really held me back for a while. So I started doing first with a writing group, and then on here as a part of NaNoWriMo, I started doing non-traditional writing prompts that focus on details or focus on lenses, like emotional lenses of the perspective character, to look at the story rather than giving you this new idea. And I try to do them daily. They're all under #ZPrompt. You don't have to buy the book. I'm not selling you the book. Look at #ZPrompt. I just organize them in such a way to help with a draft or a revision pass. And that's going to be Breakthrough to the End. That's coming out in October. And this is my first time as an Amazon bestseller. I'm very excited about that. I got my little orange ribbon. So if you're interested in that, it's been especially helpful to neurodivergent authors who just get anxiety and negative feelings from traditional writing prompts. And then the other thing I want to talk about is Romantasy Reads. It is my TikTok live show that I co-host with Joseph Harkreader. We do it Monday nights, and we bring in all kinds of authors and book talkers, and it's not necessarily strictly romantasy. It's any fantasy that has any aspect of romance, and we do spotlights, we do interviews, we do panels, we do games, and we do a giveaway every single episode. And it's a lot of fun, and it's been great to build a community through that. Romantasy Reads Monday nights live. And Katharine, I think we need to figure out a way to get you on this show as well.
I mean, if you're okay that my books aren't necessarily romantasy, they do have romantic elements because that's part of life. But that was my only thing, is like, I love supporting people, but I was just like, as long as you know,
No,
I don't
that's
tend
fine.
to fall into that proper.
And you're also allowed to come on as just a reader or an advocate or a book talker, which you are, and maybe we can find a panel for a trope that you love or a subgenre or something like that. We're always attacking it at a bunch of different angles. This Monday we have C. Christina, who is a book talker, and her big advocacy is she loves monster romance, which I know nothing about, so we're going to find out a lot about monster romance. And then mental health representation in romantasy, in fantasy romance. So we're really going to dig into those things.
That is fantastic. And Monday, do you have a particular time? I don't know if I heard the time.
9:30 Eastern. We
9:30.
go 9:30 Eastern until 11 o'clock. And I mean, it's so much fun. We do this or that. And we poll the audience on that one, and that's a lot of fun. Eventually, we are going to scrape the sound and convert to a podcast. That's probably coming next year.
I like it. And that's one of those things, is like, I love the function on this that I can, if I remember, they've shortened the time frame that I can do it, but you can download these chats and then repurpose them on other things. And that's why I do it for my YouTube channels. So if anybody ever needs a reference and didn't have a sticky note, this will be up hopefully next week on my YouTube channel, so you can come back and check it out.
Awesome, please do. You can see my lovely banner.
I'll put all your tags below so people can find you and your work, and I'll have to try to remember to add your podcast time too on there. I'm not podcast, TikTok Live.
Live, yeah.
Live. But yeah, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out. If anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to throw them our way. But I've just been, having so much fun getting to know you, and actually getting to do your written interview for some of my other stuff.
Yeah, it's been super fun. I love your platform. I love your platform, and I love how much content you have across a bunch of different. I follow you here, Facebook. I think I follow you on Instagram as well, and it's just so many different things, and there's so many ways of finding you and getting to an interview, either a written interview or these on here or the book of the week. I love all that. I do have a question. Do I have any books for a mature 6-year-old? I'm going to be honest, I do not. This guy is for traditional middle grade. I would say Pro Wrestling Saves Earth could go to an advanced 8th grade reader. I think you might be able to read it to them, but some parts are going to be a little on the intense side for kids. But yeah, I've had advanced readers as young as 8 reading Pro Wrestling Saves Earth, and advanced readers as young as 9 getting into the Hide and Seek Chronicles, starting with Chase the Boy Who Hid.
And that's the thing is, like, it's always good to know the age range of the books you're going to, and it's up to the parent to decide where they want to vet it, because some parents are a little more comfortable and some are a little more cautious, and it's never always good to ask.
Yeah.
My books don't start until, I think, since I do young adult, but the younger side of young adult, potentially 11-year-old, definitely a 12-year-old could be comfortable in my young adult series, especially the earlier books. She does age up as the series goes. But I don't write children's lit, so I would be a little more cautious for anybody younger than that.
Yeah, and it is specific to the kid. Mason down here says she has a kid obsessed with Goosebumps and American Chillers. And honestly, if your kid can handle those, then I think they would love Pro Wrestling Saves Earth.
That's so fun. I also love the title.
That title finds the readers. There's a Venn diagram of sci-fi book readers and pro wrestling fans, and it's either 100% interest or 0.
That is hysterical. I love that. I may have to go read it, because it just, again, titles can sell. Titles can sell. I feel like I'm not great at titling my work, but titles can sell. I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, and I will look forward to potentially helping you out if you ever want me on your TikTok lives. But yeah, keep in touch, and I do these weekly, so if you ever want to do another one of these after some of your books have been released, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, that's great. I love catching these whenever I can, and I see them pop up. I will jump on and watch as much as I can. These are great. Thank you for doing these. Thank you for having me. And yeah, let's talk. We're going to get you on a Romantasy Reads. It's just a matter of when.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic rest of your day. And thank you for everybody who's been chiming in today.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.